Normally I would prepare a nice and polished introduction, and today I didn't, because I just didn't feel like it, so there you have it, I said it. If you're new here, my name is Gerry van der Velde and I show you simple and inventive paper crafting techniques with easy to follow tutorials, so you can expand your creativity. And we also have a wonderful community here that you can hang out with some like-minded creative friends. And they really rock, they are nice, they are very helpful, and I really love you guys because you are the best and make this place a really cool place to hang out in. But what are we going to do in this video? We are going to make some mixed media cards. Simple mixed media, so you can do it too. And because I have no idea what else to say, I think, well, let's just not waste any more time and let's just get to it. Here are the backgrounds I made with the technique last week that I'm going to use today. So I chopped up a few of those backgrounds into leaves and butterflies, and I'm going to use the same inks that I used to make those backgrounds last week. So I'm applying some of them on my desk, and I'm not going to apply all of them because I don't want to fill the complete desk. And then I take my water brush and I'm going to pick up some color. And first I try to make splats, but that doesn't work really well because there's a bunch of holes in the butterfly. So I'm just adding it with the brush on the butterfly, and that's quite a lot of work. That's taking me like forever. So I changed my plan. I'm going to spray some water and then dip in my leaves. And I put those butterflies aside to dry. And the dipping goes way faster because, well, you dip and there you go. You have lots of color on your leaves. Now I'm pressing the leaves in the ink in a few places. I'm not dunking it in the ink all completely because that will color the complete leaf, and I want a color variation because I want some fall-ish kind of colors for my leaves. Now I'm using some older dyes. I love using and reusing my stuff, so you can dive into your stash as well. And if you want to check out the things that I am using, all the products are in the links in the description box below, so you can check them out if you want to. So I'm just giving all my leaves a nice new color layer, and you can see the color building up already. And then I'm going to put them aside to dry. And it's important to let them dry so you can add some more color and they don't just blend all together, but you get some really pretty layers. My leaves are dry, and now let's fill that white with some color. You know, I can't handle white very well on my projects. I'm really terrible at that, so just keep filling it with color. And now I am using the brush to fill those smaller pieces or smaller parts because I don't want the ink all over the leaf covering up all the previous colors, and well, then you don't see them anymore and they're just, well, one big pile of color. And I want some different colors so they look like fall leaves. So that's why I'm using the brush now, because it's a little bit more subtle. So for that, it works really well. And because I have some red still on the brush, I'm also going to make some splats to get these nice tiny drops or specks on my leaves. And this is also one thing you see on fall leaves, so I thought that would be a good idea. And then I don't have to clean the brush in between because I'm using that red. And then I have two leaves that have quite a bit of white on them still. So I'm going to dip those in the ink. And I'm also going to dip pieces of the butterflies in the gray ink. And then I'm going to let all the pieces dry again. And once the butterflies were dry, I added them on a silver Kraftstock. And the leaf I added on a piece of colored cardstock to fill up those holes, which makes it much easier to layer them on my card. Then I have two pieces of the textured colored cardstock, and I'm going to distress the edges to give them a really nice grungy look. Now I have one narrow piece and the other one is a bit wider, but it's too short, so I'm just going to tear it in half. And that way it will fit if I put one piece at the top and one piece at the bottom. Well, I make it work, you will see. So the smaller piece is going on top, and then I have that leaf, and I'm going to cut that into two pieces. So it looks like I have a bunch of leaves under my second layer or under the top layer. And then I'm just going to stick that under to see how it looks. And for the part on the right side, I see that I can chop that into two pieces again. And that way you will get three parts. And when you have three parts, it always looks better in some way. And now it looks like there are 3 leaves under, and it's only one. How cool is that? And next I have a piece of Cardstock that I embossed. And I always love working with embossing folders. They give you instant texture, which is incredibly cool and super fast as well. And I'm also going to make some layers with the embossed cardstock. I also like tearing, in case you didn't know. I love tearing, and there are even people who expect me to tear something in my videos, so lots of tearing going on in this video again. And I'm tearing up a small piece into smaller bits that I can tuck under the top panel. And this way I have my cardstock come back again in a few different ways, which helps to bring the complete design come together more. That's always a great way to make a layer design a whole piece, instead of just lots of layers. And I'm always trying to find new ways to use my torn pieces, because it's just fun and it's always cool to play with some ideas or see where it leads to. So once I knew the base part was okay like this, I glued it to my card, and then I'm going to add my layers. First I'm starting with the leaves to add them over that middle part, so it doesn't show that the card was too short. And you can use glue for this or tape, whatever you like best. I often like to use tape because it works really fast. And I make sure to measure with the card that's going to come on top. And I also want to make sure that the leaf is peeking out from under as much as possible. And then I'm going to add the silver pieces. I'm going to add one on the card, and the other ones I'm going to add to the back of the panel. This way it would be easier to measure and get them in the place where I wanted them. And once that panel was done, I've added some tape to the back, and now I'm going to add some thread. And I'm going to pull that around the card and tape that to the back, because I wanted to create a bit of a messy look. Well, that worked, but it's not exactly how I planned it. So I'm not going to fuss about it too much, because I have some more layers and I can, well, do something with it to get it in place. And then I have that silver cardstock that I embossed, a piece left. I want to get a bit of that grungy look as well on these pieces, because I like how it's torn. So I'm tearing two pieces, and then I didn't like the straight edge, so I'm tearing the middle part as well. And once I have those pieces completely torn, I'm going to add them to my card over the thread. And next I'm ready to add my panel to the card. So I'm going to add some glue, and I measured with my butterflies a little bit already where I want my butterflies. So I'm going to add some glue in places around those butterflies. It's sort of doodling with glue. And then I'm going to shake on my beads. I've picked some really orange beads, and later on I thought, well, maybe they should have been silver for a bit of a calmer look. It's going to be quite a wild card this way. But the orange also comes back in the background, so it will work. By the way, the glue is dry and clear, so you won't see that white anymore. Now it looks kind of weird. So make sure to sprinkle on those beads, and you can press them in the glue a little bit, but you don't have to really. They stick or they don't. And if they don't stick, then they just fall off. And you can test that before you send the card away. So I make sure that all the glue is filled with the beads. And then I'm going to shake off those beads. Now the glue is still wet, but that's okay, because I'm going to add my butterflies. And the fun thing is, I measured with my butterflies to see how I want them. Now I'm adding some glue, and then I'm going to add my butterfly in the other direction, which is very interesting. But well, that happens, so let's just work with it and not against it. My aunt always says, as you make it, you get it. Well, in Dutch she says, zoals het maakt, zo het het. But that just means that the design, as you make it, well, it's going to be just that, so work with it and not against it. Anyway, so I'm just going to add my second butterfly underneath, a bit more wonky than I wanted it initially. And besides you, no one will know, so it's going to be a fun card anyway. And after the glue dried a bit, I've also found a few old buttons I got from my mom, and I'm going to add those too as some really fast and fun texture. And also to add to a bit of that grunge look, which is cool. I've also added a few silver micro beads on top of the orange, and that tones down the orange a little bit. And those beads completely in silver, that was my initial plan. That would have worked as well. But that's too late now. So for the second card, I already distressed the edges of my colored textured cardstock. And I've also chopped up my embossed piece of gold Cardstock. Oh my goodness, what kind of words am I using here? So I should choose easier supplies to work with. Easier to pronounce supplies to work with. Anyway, so I'm tearing a few V-shapes in my colored cardstock. And then I'm going to tape a piece of that craftstock to the back. Just to let that gold craftstock peek out from under, which is always cool. So with some tape to the back of the cardstock, I added over the gold craftstock to get it in place. And I always find that an easy way, looking at the front, so you see what you're doing. And then I'm going to be fussing around with my pieces and the blocks at the top and at the bottom. I'm totally convinced about those two. But then I'm fiddling with the leaves and that leftover piece, and I'm moving them around and around some more, and something is missing. And then...
Ooh, light bulb moment.
So I went to pick a piece of music paper. And that's totally going to work. How? Well, let me show you. So I've added those two pieces in place, a bit from the top and also a bit from the bottom. And then I've torn my music paper in pieces, and I've also torn the leftover gold piece in pieces. And then I'm going to add that music paper also in layers. And then I was thinking maybe a piece of vellum would look nice. And while I was going through my box to dig up my vellum, I came across this old tea bag. This is an old used tea bag that I pulled apart, and this looks well, interesting, I think. And this may well be the missing piece that I was looking for. So with some tape to the back of the panel, I'm adding the tea bag and folding it around the panel, and it was looking too straight, so I'm just well, I'm fumbling again. I'm crumpling up the tea bag, and that way you get some darker color or some more white edges instead of the see-through, which will give you a bit more texture or, well, some variation in the color over the parts in the background. And then I'm going to add the music paper layers. And next I'm going to add the leaves, and then I use my glue gun to secure them. And once I got one comment that I was being very salesy to advise a glue gun for paper crafting. So that was very interesting. So if you think I'm very salesy because I'm using a glue gun, well, that's okay. You can do that. I don't mind. I just find it a very handy tool in both paper crafting for cards as well as for making mixed media wall hangings or bigger projects like the one that's on my bookshelf behind me when I do the intro. Well, I just love a glue gun, but not for really small pieces. And then I came across another thing. I planned to pick the green card for my card, and well, I didn't like the look at all. And then I was thinking, dark blue, that could work. So I'm just going to add it to a dark blue card, and that looks way better. And orange and blue are always great combinations as they are opposite to each other in the color wheel. So they are complementary. And I think it's working. I'm going to go on to the next card. And for that, I already have some pieces distressed and torn and embossed and, well, everything ready to go. While I was staring, I was a little bit too enthusiastic, and so I've torn up a really big piece of the card, but that's okay. I'm going to emphasize it by adding some ink, and now I'm going to do it on purpose on the other side. So I have the 3 thing going on my card again. And now what to do with those V shapes that I have. I'm going to add the rest of the tea bag to the back of those V shapes. And I'm going to make some wrinkles in the paper. I have some tape to the back of my card. And then I'm going to add the tea bag in place. And I make sure to secure it with a piece of tape. And that's just a regular tape. The kind you use for wrapping gifts or stuff like that. So I went on and torn the embossed piece of Cardstock, and because it's not long enough for this card, I'm going to use 2 pieces again, and I'm adding them to the card panel. And now I'm going to fuss with my leaves again. So I'm going to just put them on the card to see where I want them, and once I have them in place, I'm going to add them with my glue gun. Then I found this card is Okay, but it's missing something. And the thing that was missing was some color. Now, making splats is, well, not a good idea at this point, because then you will get your splats like all over the place. So I'm going for some drops, and those will add just a bit of color that I want. So here are the 3 finished cards. I added a printed sentiment on one of them, and I left the others open so I can add a sentiment when needed. So there you go. You see, there's nothing to be afraid of when it comes to mixed media. You can keep it simple or go completely over the top with lots of luscious layers. It's your choice, your project, so do whatever you fancy. Now you have some fun techniques to try, so make sure to do that. And if you want some more inspiration, why not? I have some, I think, up right here. And, well, as always, make sure to keep on crafting.